Hello and welcome to a brief history of the USA and the United Kingdom. England was created in the 10th century. Then the Roman rule in Britain facilitated the Anglo-Saxon settlement of Britain, which is fancy speak for England changed its culture settings from Roman to Germanic. The Anglo-Saxons introduced the Old English language, which largely replaced the previous British language. They warred with British successor states in Western Britain and the Brythonic-speaking parts of Northern Britain, as well as with each other. Raids by Vikings became frequent after about 800 AD, and the Norsemen settled in large parts of what is now England. During this period, several rulers attempted to unite the various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, an effort that led to the emergence of the Kingdom of England by the 10th century. In 1066, a Norman expedition invaded and conquered England. The Norman dynasty established by William the Conqueror ruled over England for over half a century, before the period of succession crisis, also known as the Anarchy. Following the Anarchy, England came under the rule of the House of Plantagenet. Following the Anarchy, England came under the rule of the House of
Plantagenet,
a dynasty which later inherited claims to the Kingdom of France. A succession crisis in France led to the Hundred Years' War, a series of conflicts involving the peoples of both nations. Following the Hundred Years' War, England became embroiled in its own succession wars. The Wars of Roses pitted two branches of the House of
Plantagenet
against one another, the House of York and the House of Lancaster. The Lancastrian Henry Tudor ended the War of Roses and established the Tudor dynasty in 1485. In the 1530s, England came under the rule of Henry VIII. It separated from the Church and formed the Church of England, allowing him to get divorced twice. Wales, a congeries of Celtic kingdoms lying in Great Britain's southwest, was formally united with England by the Acts of Union of 1536 and 1542, while Scotland formally joined with England and Wales in 1707 to form the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Let's have a short break from England and talk about North America. Native Americans lived in the Americas for thousands of years. In 1607, English people created a settlement in the place now called Jamestown, Virginia. Under the Tudors and the later Stuart dynasty, England became a colonial power. During the rule of Stuarts, the English Civil War took place between the parliamentarians and the royalists, which resulted in the execution of King Charles I and the establishment of a series of republican governments. First, a parliamentary republic known as the Commonwealth of England, then a military dictatorship under Oliver Cromwell, known as the Protectorate. Ireland came under English control during the 1600s and was formally united with Great Britain through the Act of Union of 1800. The Republic of Ireland gained its independence in 1922, but 6 of Ulster's 9 counties remained part of the United Kingdom as Northern Ireland. Relations between these constituent states in England have been marked by controversy and at times open rebellion and even warfare. These tensions relaxed somewhat during the late 20th century, when developed assemblies were introduced in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Now back to the not-yet-independent US of A. In 1775, a war between the 13 colonies and Britain began when the colonists were upset over paying taxation to their government in the UK, but were not being given any chance to vote in the UK/British elections to contribute to how that money was spent. Just after dawn on April 19, 1775, the British attempted to disarm Massachusetts militarily at Concord, Massachusetts, thus beginning the war with the shot heard around the world. On July 4, 1776, Founding Fathers wrote the United States Declaration of Independence. They won the Revolutionary War and started a new country. They signed the Constitution in 1787 and the Bill of Rights in 1791. General George Washington, who had led the war, became its first president. During the 19th century, the United States gained much more land in the West and began to become industrialized. In 1861, several states in the South attempted to leave the United States and start a new country called the Confederate States of America. This caused the American Civil War. After the war, immigration resumed. Some Americans became very rich in the Gilded Age. The country developed to one of the largest economies in the world. In the 20th century, the United States became a world power, fighting World War I and World War II. Between the wars, there was an economic boom called the Roaring Twenties, when many people became richer and a bust called the Great Depression. when most people were poorer. The Great Depression ended with World War II. The United States and the Soviet Union entered the Cold War. This included wars in Korea and Vietnam. During this time, African Americans, Chicanos, and women sought more rights. In the 1970s and the 1980s, the United States started to make fewer things in factories. The country went through the worst recession it had had since the Great Depression. In the late 1980s, the Cold War ended, helping the United States out of recession. The Middle East became more important in American foreign policy, especially after the September 11 attacks in 2001. Now, for one last time, we return to the United Kingdom. Following the Industrial Revolution, Great Britain ruled a colonial empire, the largest in recorded history. Following a process of decolonization in the 20th century, mainly caused by the weakening of Great Britain's power in the two world wars, almost all of the empire's overseas territories became independent countries. However, as of 2020, its cultural impact remains widespread and deep in many of them.